We're going to review a lot of 1.1. We're going to finish 1.1 first. So you should be on the front of 1.1. It's where all the terms are. Were you in my class this morning? Or did you just fill it? Oh, you were in my second hour. Yeah, so this is going to be really review for you. It's fine. All right, so if C is between A and B, then CA and CB are opposite rays. So your new word to learn is opposite rays, and I'll show you why. If we're talking about CA, this is not on your paper, we're just talking. What is the endpoint of ray CA? C, and it goes off in the direction of which A, okay? Then we have CB. What's the endpoint of CB? C, and it goes off in the direction of B. These are opposite rays because they're two rays, and they go opposite. But there are three things that make them opposite rays, other than the fact that they go opposite directions. First one is that they are collinear. What did collinear mean again? Jace just said it.
Points on the same line.
Points on the same line. Okay, so that's your first checkpoint. You see it's like a check box. So points, they are collinear. So they're on the same line. Next reason, what did they have in common, CA and CB? They had something in particular in common. Yeah, the same starting point, same end point, whatever you want to call it. Same end point is what I have. And then what makes them opposite is that they go in opposite directions. Okay, so when you think of opposite, what's opposite of north? South. What's opposite of west? East. Okay, so when we're talking about opposite, we're talking about polar opposite. Okay, if I drew two lines that look like this, okay, we're all looking forward to this time, right? On the clock. What time is this? Okay, are these two rays opposite?
No.
They are not. Okay, opposite would mean directly across, so like this, or like this. Okay, a straight line. All right, so are these opposite rays? We have ED and EF. Are they collinear? Are all 3 points on the same line? What did a line look like?
No, because that one's...
Yeah, so it's a no. Because a line, in geometry, a line is a straight line. A continuous straight line. So these are not on the same line. So this was already, no, they're not opposite rays. Okay, we can keep going. We're going to explain why other things. Do they have the same endpoint?
Yeah.
Yes, what's their endpoint?
E.
E. Do they go in opposite directions?
No.
No, so they would have been wrong in 2 places. So again, opposite would be the stark opposite. Okay? All right, last one. SR and ST, are they collinear?
Yeah.
Yes, all 3 points are on the same line. Do they have the same endpoint, SR and ST? Yes, what's the endpoint? S. And then do they go in opposite directions? Yep, SR and then ST. They do. So these would be opposite rays. Perfect. So we finished 1.1. We're going to start 1.2. 1.2 won't take very long. We're reviewing a lot of 1.1. Okay, so your notes should be 1.2 notes, the one I just gave you. We skipped that because endpoints are on the end of a line. You know what I mean? So the 3 things that you should notice are different. So this is at the front of the page. Here's what we're going to be doing. I don't have an extra pair, extra set. Yeah, you need 1.2. I don't have any extras, so you'll have to get some after. Take notes, and then I'll print you off here. Here's what we're going to do. It's going to be in an awkward order, because it is what it is. We're going to do this bottom portion first. It's what's on the screen. You should see that your first 3 do not match the 3 that I highlighted. It's on purpose. You're going to scratch off yours and replace them. That makes sense? So number 1, you don't have a 1 there. What is another name? Yours says BD. You're going to replace it with ED, and so on. Okay? Who did I see this from? Sorry. So you want to scratch off what's already there. Yes, ma'am. I don't have any more notes. I don't have any more. So you're just going to have to write your own. We're going to do them together.
Oh, okay.
Yes, ma'am. Do you know how to set it down? No. No, and I originally only had 11 kids in this class. Now I have 20. So
Nice.
I don't have So all the printing that we did, and then we had 3 days off from the lightning. So printing didn't work for 3 days, obviously. So I don't have enough printing, so it just is what it is. Just means come here early and get what you need. All right. So we have these three we're going to answer. The first, what is another name for ED? Is this a line segment, or array? Segment. Why do I know it's a segment? Has no. Yeah, it's a straight line, no arrows. Okay. So here's what I want to point out. Everyone see the intersection of these two lines? You see this E? This is a point here. It's not going to write it in your book. It's just going to understand, or hope that you understand, that this is a point. Okay, so if you want to put it there, you can. But from now on, whenever you see two lines intersecting, there is a point where they intersect. Okay? So we're going to talk about ED from E to D. It is a line segment. So how can we rename ED? DE. So that's the same thing. What's another name for DB? So same thing, from the letter D to the letter B. BD. But the third is not a line segment. What is the third?
Array.
It's array. So I cannot just flip the letters. And I'll show you why. So we currently have DB. What's my end point, or my starting point of DB? D, and it goes off towards B infinitely. Goes past B, further and further. If I were to try and switch them to BD, what would my new endpoint be? B. So I would start at B and then go towards D. Okay, so I wouldn't cover the same amount of ground, if that makes sense. Okay, D extends past B and beyond. Okay, BD would extend past D and beyond. Okay, they don't cover the same amount of ground, so you can't just flip the letters. All right, so that's not going to be our answer. A lot of people put that on their homework, and it's not okay. We can't do it. What we can do, however, we need the same starting point as DB. So what is the starting point we're going to use? D. And we need to go in the same direction as the letter B, but what other letter is in that direction? E. So we're going to say DE. Because this arrow signifies I'm going to keep going, and I'm going to pass the letter B, and I'm just going to keep going and going and going. Okay, so these are equivalent. Name all rays with the endpoint E. So just because it says endpoint, this is what throws people off. When I name it, what letter should go first? E. All right, so let's name one of them. E what?
EA.
Sure, EA.
EB.
I'm getting there.
Sorry.
I'm color coding.
Okay.
EB, you said?
Yeah. EC.
Does it look like my finger can go that fast? Just kidding. EC. Oop. And then what was the last one? ED. ED. All right, so those are all of the rays with the endpoint E. This is what people got wrong on their homework because they tried to flip them. Okay, so E has to come first. Name two pairs of opposite rays. So we're going to start with just naming a ray. Just pick one.
EA.
Sure, EA. So starting at E, going towards the letter A. EA. What would be opposite of EA? EC. Okay, they have the same endpoint. They're collinear, and they go in completely opposite directions. My second set would be EB and ED. All right, this last one has many, many answers. List a pair that are not opposite. So pick a ray in general.
ED.
I heard a lot of answers. What'd you say?
ED.
Sure. ED. So I could say ED and EC. I just don't have room at the bottom. This is for number 6. Just so we're all clear. I don't have room down there. So we're listing that one pair that are not opposite rays. So we said ED and EC. What else could we say with ED?
EA.
EA is also not a pair of opposite rays. Okay. We feeling good? Dun, 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 dun. This song. Flip to the back. I told you this is an awkward order at first. I know. I'm working on it, okay? Whatever. We'll all live. So we're going to talk about naming them. This is, again, still from 1.1. We're just reviewing. Let's say I wanted to name this point. Okay? There are two ways to name it. What do we think? Point A, and then Gage already said it. What's the other way? A. They need to be capitalized. Need to. You can do this for each one. Same thing with B would be point B or B. C would be point C or C. Okay, all capital letters. Question about points. There's no name on this one. All right, let's talk about lines. You have this line on here. Let's say we wanted to use the word line. What is the only letter I could use with the word line? M. Why would I use the letter M?
Because it's lowercase.
It's lowercase. And what's the other reason? It's not a point. Okay, so I can use line M. Or I can use my symbols with my arrows above. How many letters do I use? 2 letters. Okay, so I can use any 2 letters except for what letter? M. I can't use M because M is not a point. Okay? I can use X. Here's why. Let's say I did WX. Okay? What do these little arrows mean?
They go beyond.
They keep going beyond and on and on and on. So wouldn't this line eventually hit the letter Y and include it? Yeah, and then pass it and keep on going and going and going. So you can use WX. You could also flip it and say XW. Okay? What is another set we could use? XY. What else? XY. We can flip them, and then what do you say? WY. That's also correct. Okay, and then obviously you can flip them. I'm just not writing it 6 times. That's all. We get on naming lines. It's on your notes. So these are your notes. You're now in a 10th grade class, so you decide what goes on your notes. When I write things down, they're to help you. Because, you see, I know how to name points, lines, and planes. You know what I mean? So, what? I do it every day. I know. This is the 6th time teaching this. Just saying. But it's fine. I like it. It's cool. I would not do this in my sleep. I told y'all, once my last class goes, I think about other things, you know?
Are we your last class?
Yes, you are.
Yes.
Anyways, so we're going to name a plane. What do you always have to have? I kind of gave it to you. What do you always have to have in order to name a plane? Plane. And then you can do 2 things. What's the first way we can name this plane? Plane P. Why do we use the letter P?
Because it's not a point.
It's not a point. So not a point. How do I know it's not a point? There's no dot, and it's in italic. Okay? So plane P. Or I still use the word plane. And then how many letters do I use? 3 letters. Which letters can I not use from this picture? Can't use S. Why not S?
Because it's outside the plane.
Yeah, it's not on the plane. All right, and then I can't use P because it's still not a point. So pick 3 letters.
L-A-E-O-N.
I heard L-A-N. Lan. E-L-A, E-N-A, all of those. The only time you can't use 3 letters is if they're on, like, I can't use A again. Q. That's the worst looking Q I've ever seen. Q, what is it? Q, no, I did not do that in order. It doesn't matter. Forget it. Anyways, you can't use plain QPR. You could say plain LQP or some sort of version of that. You can't use 3 collinear points. Okay, that's the only rule about using 3 points. Okay? All right, last thing is a segment. Before we get to it, how many letters did we use to name a point? To name a point. 1. How many letters did we use to name a line? 2. And to name a plane? 3. A segment falls under which of those categories? A line, yeah. So we're going to use 2 letters. Okay? We want to name the entire line segment. So what 2 letters am I going to use? A, B, and then what's my line above it going to look like? Straight line, no arrows. Can I flip them?
Yes.
Yes, so I'd say BA. Good, last one. A ray, which also falls under the category of a line. So it's still 2 letters. All right, so when we name a ray, what does my symbol look like above the letters? A line going to the right. Good. He did. We're moving on. The first letter has to be the end point of the ray. The end point, the initial point, whatever you want to call it. So what is the end point of our first ray? H, and it goes off in the direction of which letter? G. So we would name the second ray A, B. Okay, we used A first because it is the end point. All right. Whew. Now we do 1.2. That was all 1.1. 1.2 is simple, though. Flip back to the front. I promise it'll get better. It'll get better. It's fine.
Still 1.2.
This is 1.1. This is all review. Listen, I used to make kids draw it, so you're welcome that it's even on there. So take that. You're welcome. Measuring. Happy birthday. Measuring and constructing segments. So we're going to learn some words. First word we're going to use is postulate. Again, don't write down everything you see on the screen or you're going to be wasting your time. In geometry, rules that are accepted without proof are called postulates or axioms. We don't really use the word axiom, so not really pertinent. Postulate is important. Postulates, let's say it's a rule that is accepted without proof. A rule that's accepted without proof. A rule that is accepted without proof. I would equate this to common sense, but is common sense common?
No.
Definitely not. It's a rule that is accepted without proof. Okay? Just like we accept that a line looks like a line, like we all know what a line is right off the bat, okay? But these are things that we have to say out loud in order for all of us to be on the same page, but they're kind of common sense. The other one is a theorem. A theorem is a rule that has been proven. A rule that's been proven. So you know a very particular rule, or theorem, sorry. What theorem was that? The Pythagorean theorem. We did that in January or February, one or the other. So that one had to be proven because if you walked up to a 6th grader and said, well, a squared plus b squared equals c squared, that's not common sense. That's not something that we just accepted to be true. We had to actually prove it, okay? But I'll show you a postulate. I'll show you 2 postulates, actually, in this section. Okay, but before we do, we're going to talk about congruent. You'll see another word there, congruent. Congruent segments have the same measure. So how to write that in? Congruent segments have the same measure. Congruent segments have the same measure. I use the word measure instead of length because you can have angles that are congruent. Okay? Like a right angle. How many degrees is a right angle? 90. All right angles are congruent because all right angles have the same measure. Okay? It's a very important word in geometry. We're going to use the whole year. You'll see this picture. We would agree that they basically look like they're the same line or the same length. Do we agree? Okay. In geometry, you can't say, oh, they look congruent. They look like they're the same length, so they're the same length. That's not going to fly. Okay. So what happens is geometry will have these symbols that show you that they are what you think that they are. You see these red dashes? That red dash signifies that they are actually congruent to each other. Okay, so this red dash and this red dash, they're important. Okay, I call them dashes or ticks, just depends on the day. But that means they're the same length or measure, whatever. And we said the same length or measurement. What does same measure mean? Just write it down. Congruent. Okay, so that signifies that these 2 lines are congruent. Okay. Your congruent symbol you're going to fill in. It's a squiggle with an equal sign under it. So you'll see a blank for a congruent symbol. It's a squiggle and then an equal sign under it. You're going to see it almost in every section. What if I wanted to say not congruent? What would I do with this? Put a slash through it. Okay, so that's not congruent. That's congruent. Not congruent, congruent. Not congruent. Okay? So what'll happen is we're going to have segments that are congruent. You'll say segment AB is congruent to segment CD. You're going to create statements like this. Okay? And I'll show you why in, I think, the next slide. Yeah. This is your first example. It is on the last page. So last time you have to flip back and forth on these notes. So sorry. It is what it is. It says plot J, K, L, and M in a coordinate plane. Then decide or determine whether J, K, and L, M are congruent. So right now, we're going to have J, K. But right now we don't have a line segment. We have J and K. So we're going to plot these points, and then we're going to connect the dots in order for them to be a line. Because at first they're going to be two dots. Then you connect them to make a line. And then the same thing with LM. We're going to plot the points and then connect them to make a line segment. Okay? Before we plot any points, what do we need on this graph? Yeah, we need the lines, which, yes, you can call labels. I don't require you to number them. I don't put numbers. I'm not going to put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't got time for that. You can if you want to, but I am not going to. And I'm not requiring it. Okay? So we're going to first plot J. J is negative 3, 4. So from my origin, am I going to go left or right? Left because of negative 3, so 1, 2, 3. And then am I going to go up or down? Up 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Nope. Did I do that? Yep, negative 3, 4. And then I'm going to label it J. Okay, it kind of helps you organize your thoughts. All right, and then K, 2, 4. So starting at the origin, go left or right? Right, and then, bless you, up. Up J, yeah. So then you can connect them, because now you have a line segment. You have line segment JK. What? Oh, sorry. All right, now we have L. Starting at the origin, do I go left or right? Right, and then up 3. All right, and then we have 1, negative 2 for M. So to the right, and then down 2. All right, so there's a really sophisticated way that you can prove that they're congruent or not. Congruent means same measure. How can I find the measure? You count the boxes. Okay, so you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for JK. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for LM. So are they the same measure? Yes. So here's what you write. Okay, you're going to say JK. If they're the same measure, what do we call that? Congruent. They are congruent. JK is congruent to LM. And then that's your answer. That's it. So this is your answer. When I say show work, what work do you think is shown? Yeah, your graph is your work. Okay? Do you have any questions on this? Thank you. It's an app on here. I can also draw a perfect circle as you want to see. Boom.
She didn't know that. She just was.
I did draw it. Without even looking.
Oh.
Yes, sir. What are you asking me a question?
Never mind.
You sure?
Yeah.
I appreciated your 3 words to describe me on your page. Your get to know you page.
Oh. I don't know.
Oh, I do. I'll always remember. It's fine. This is a postulate. Okay? When 3 points line a line, you can say one of them is between the other 2. So this is one of those we have to say it out loud. But Between means between. So here's the difference, okay? In all seriousness, E would not be considered between because it's not on the line, okay? So we're going to see a problem in 2 slides where it's actually going to be written in words, and you're going to draw the picture. And it will say point B is between A and C. So you need to put B on the same line between A and C. That's the purpose of this. This is a postulate. It's like common sense, but we have to say it. We agree. There's no proof, but we all agree that between means between. Yep. This is a fill in the blank. This is the last bullet point. It's in the middle-ish of your paper. You're going to write it in, and then I'm going to explain it to you. Because at first, it's not going to make any sense. Oh, look, I have extra notes. At first, it's not going to make any sense. At first, it's not going to make any sense until I explain it. Okay? So, here we go. If B is between A and C, one goes to her, then AB plus BC equals AC. Just fill it in, and I will explain it. I promise you, it is very simple. Just fill it in. If B is between A and C, then AB plus BC equals AC. You actually do this all the time in your head without thinking about it. Okay? And I might actually pause for a second. Something to write on the side. If you noticed, it said all of those line segments and they didn't have a line above. Here's why. Whenever there's not a line above, it means the length of. So instead of writing out the length of line segment AB, it's going to put AB with no line above it. This means the length of. I'll show you why. Give me a number.
5.
That's actually the most popular number said today. 5. So what it would say in your book, it would say AB equals 5. This represents the length of AB is 5. So you wouldn't put a line above it. That's all. I'm just throwing it out there if you notice why there wasn't a line above. Whenever you name a line segment, you have to have the line above it. But if you're talking about the length of a line segment, there will not be a line above it. Okay? You're going to see it in like every example from here to the end of the class. Okay, so we're going to go back to this. Hopefully you wrote this down. We're going to dumb this down as quickly or as best as possible. Can you see yellow? Can you see yellow?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, what did I just draw?
I don't even know what that's called. The little football.
The football uprights, it's fine. How long is a football field? 100 yards.
And 20.
Okay, from the front of the end zone to the front of the end zone is 100. But you're smart. I appreciate that. Okay, so let's say you've made it down, we'll make it easy. You've made it down 20 yards of the football field from the end zone, okay, to point B. Okay? How far would you have to go to get into the other end zone? Congratulations, you just used this postulate. Okay, here's why.
Oh.
Because what's the length of AB in this picture? 20. What's the length of BC in this picture? 80. And what's the length of AC? 100 yards. So you do it a lot in your head without writing out in paper form. Does that make sense? Okay. We're going to do a couple problems. Find DF. This is on your paper. Why doesn't it have the line above it?
Because it's a length.
It's the length. It's asking for the length of DF. Okay, so from the letter D to the letter F. What am I going to do to figure out? What do you think? I'm going to add them. Yep. So if this piece was 23 and this piece is 35, I add them to get the full length, which is 58. Well, you didn't say anything at all, so... Next one. Find GH. Find the length of GH in particular. Okay, so we have the length of FH, the length of the entire, well, we can call it a field, we can call it whatever you want, is 36. We have a piece of that 36, and it's 21. So how do we find what's remaining of the 36? Subtract. You could use this in dollar form, too. If you have $36 and you spent 21 of it, how much do you have left? I mean, yeah, you're going to have 15. Okay, perfect. Oh, we got to hurry a little bit. This one is the same. It's just a picture is laid behind it. Okay, we all see it. You're taking a road trip from that word to St. Louis. Don't ask me what that means. How far is the entire trip? 738 miles. How do you know that?
Because it said from L to S is 730.
Yeah. It shows you. The whole thing is 738. How far have we already traveled? 377. So how do I find what remains? Subtract. All right, my math pros. What do we get? 361, and then miles. And then that's your answer. You're going to flip to the blank section on the back, because we're going to do a problem that standard doesn't do. You're going to write, we're not going to do this one. We don't have time right now. Points A, B, and C are collinear. What did collinear mean?
They're
On the same line. Point B is between A and C. So that means we have a line. Okay, so what order are my letters going to go in? A, B, and C. So make sure you're writing all this down. I'll wait for a second. I know. Yeah, you need to write the question. I'll wait. So we have AC equals 3x plus 3. I'm just going to plug it onto our picture. We already drew our picture based on the fact that A, B, and C are on the same line, and B is between A and C. So we took that and we drew this picture. Are we all okay with A, B, C here? So AC, the length of AC is 3x plus 3. What's the length of AB? -1 plus 2x, yeah. So that's the length of this piece. And what's the length of BC? 11. So I want you to keep in mind what we just did. You just did this, where you said this piece was 20, this piece was 80, and 20 plus 80 equaled 100. So the two pieces add up to the full length of the line. Okay, so my two pieces are my blue and my red here. They're going to add up to the full length of the line. What's the full length of AC? 3x plus 3. So I'm going to add these two together, and they will equal the full length. Just like here, 20 plus 80 equaled the full length, which is 100. We're going to do the same thing over here. So we're going to write -1 plus 2x plus 11. So those are the two pieces of the line, and they are going to equal the full length of the line, which is 3x plus 3. Then I'm going to move this down. From here, are we in geometry anymore? No, we're in algebra again. So if you liked algebra, breathe it in. If you didn't, it'll be okay. We have -1 plus 2x plus 11 on the left side. Okay? Because all we did was we took AB, we added it to BC, and we set it equal to AC, which is literally the theorem. The thing that you wrote in the blank like 10 minutes ago, all we did was fill in the measurements. Okay? So we're going to combine like terms on this side. What's -1 plus 11? 10. So we're going to have 2x plus 10 equals 3x plus 3. I always move the smaller x, so which one is my smaller x? 2x. So I'm going to subtract it. So 10 equals x plus 3. So my final answer, x equals 7. So this problem in particular asked for x. Your homework might ask you to find the length of each of the lines. So what would you do with x to find the length of AC or AB? You'd plug it back in. Okay? We don't have time to do it, or we would do it. Okay? So just read the directions. At this point, I'm going to do your supply check. Okay? So I'm looking for all of these things and your honors agreement and your syllabus. Please have them out, spread out on your table. If I've already checked it, this is your homework. Okay? I put this piece of paper up here to remind you how to label your paper. Okay? This is not your homework assignment because you did this last week. Your homework assignment is up here. Okay? So make sure you write it down. But high priority is your supply check right now. So I need your syllabus out, your honors out, and then all of these things. Put your textbook cover on your textbook.